But if this is someone that's kicked around at 900 milligrams of an O19,
yeah,
then all right, training's harsher. But there's other than that, there's it's a total androgen load. You need to be more concerned about than what it's broken down into.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the podcast with Dave Crosland. I'm Scott McNally. Guys, if you're new to our programming, Dave is an expert witness for the court system, testifying in cases related to PEDs and anabolics. He is also an educator. He is also an educator for the police and military in the UK. What is that, Dave? What you got there?
It's the bag for my headphones. I just found it. So.
Oh, nice. By the way, Christmas Cabbage has got to make a quick flight, so we gotta knock this one out. He's flying out with Dusty. Mutant bought him a ticket, and he is going to be flying in business out to back to you and to make it in time for the Arnold UK.
I'm gonna wipe my ass on him.
So, listen, you guys are going to be seeing this recorded episode after the Arnold UK was over, but we're excited. Dave, you can tell Dave's in a really good mood today. Dave's really excited, and he's excited to meet all of you guys at the Arnold. So get a picture with Dave, say hello to him. By then, Christmas Cabbage will be with him, and you can get all your pictures and autographs signed with the Cabbage. Dave, hi.
Hello.
What's wrong?
No, I'm sure it's going to be fine.
You, Dave, come on, you're putting on an act. You were telling me you were excited, and your wife is excited. You guys are going to have fun. It's going to be a good time.
It's a lot of work, particularly doing SupportMAX 2 days after for 3 days.
So you have to do, basically, you're going to take a bunch of blood work at the Arnold Expo, and then you're going to have to race down to get that stuff in before it spoils, right?
We've got couriers coming every day to go to the lab with the bloods.
Oh, do you really?
So the couriers go every day to the lab with the bloods. The lab's running 24 hours over the weekend. And then basically we get back late Sunday night, and it will be late Sunday night. And then I'm probably going to start doing blood work reports Saturday or Sunday anyway. And then we get back late Sunday night. I need to try and get some work done then. And then up early Monday morning to try and start break into it, because Tuesday we drive to London to do SupportMAX for Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
What's SupportMAX?
So SupportMAX is a B2B business-to-business expo.
Oh.
For the fitness industry, so it's a lot of like coaching, education stuff, and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So we're doing the first aid for the whole event, which is why we have to be there from the very first thing Wednesday morning.
I gotcha.
And then we're doing but we're having a stand as well. It's a new one for us. I don't know how it's going to be, but the timing is sodding awful. Yeah,
you're going to have a lot going on. I got to tell you, man. Go ahead.
I'm going to be trying to clear through probably best part of 100 plus reports.
Yeah.
While doing another expo at the same time.
It's going to be a lot going on, basically. I'm glad we're able to get this show in, and I have to tell you, we had a good time at the Arnold. Here was a picture that I took of 4 famous bodybuilding celebrities all in the same shot.
I only see 3.
You only see 3? Who?
James.
Yeah.
And then there's 2 other people.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Look in the bottom right corner.
Bottom right corner?
Yeah.
The cabbage. Actually, is that Jamie behind it? Behind James?
Yeah, I think it is, actually. I think it is. Yeah. So it's cool.
Actually, there's 5 bodybuilding legends in that picture.
There is. I felt very honored. I should try to get an autograph from each of them on this shot. We had a great time. Appreciate everybody who watched all of our post-Arnold content. And you guys left us a bunch of questions on the previous episode. So listen, we're going to try to get through those. And we are going to need your help with the next episode. So comment below. Fill this YouTube episode up with all your comments and questions, and that's going to help us to boost our programming back up, Dave, because we took a hit on views ever since we got canceled there for a minute. Do you know that?
Have we?
Yeah, a little bit. But we'll be back. You know, things wax and wane. I'm not surprised at all.
So we're not doing 1 million views anymore.
No, we're only doing 999,000.
That's shit, Scott. Pull your finger out.
All right, so listen, I'm going to start here. We had a question. He said, maybe you guys can answer this after the Arnold Classic. Well, it's after the U.S. Arnold Classic. He said, can I get your opinion on Deca and Tren together? My cycle would look like this. Trenny 400. Trenny 400, Test E 300, and Deca 500. Tell me why it's frowned upon to use two 19 Nors together, although I've seen high-level coaches protocols where they do use both together.
I don't think there's anything particularly wrong with using two Nor 19s together. I think the issue is around total exposure to whatever drug. And it's very much down to stacking those certain negative impacts of those drugs together. So, I mean, we spoke about it plenty of times, how there's a drop in dopamine when on Tren or Deca.
Yeah.
So effectively, you're running 900 milligrams of a Nor 19 compound of one version or another against a 300 milligram test base. Now, I've done that test to Deca before now, and I've had clients be very, very successful with it. So it's not that that's not viable, but you've also got 500 Tren in there, which is it 500 Tren or 400 Tren? I can't remember what he said.
400 Tren, 300 Testy, 500 Deca.
Yeah. So you've got a very harsh compound, and it's not so much that I have an issue with Tren and Deca together. I don't. I just generally have an issue with Tren. Full stop. I don't like it as a compound. I think it's very selective, its use, and I think it should be used incredibly sparingly. I would never look at Tren for an off-season drug. I think it's way too inflammation-based. And I would save it for pre-comp, both either be a performance sport like strength-based or even bodybuilding. I'm not a fan of it off season. I just think it leaves the body way too stressed to get the best out of your growing period.
Yeah.
But actually combining the two, it's more a case of what your total dosing is. I mean, if this is someone who's never gone above 500 Deca or 500 Tren singularly, then it's a bad move. But if this is someone that's kicked around at 900 milligrams of an O19,
yeah,
then all right, Tren is harsher, but there's other than that, there's it's a total androgen load you need to be more concerned about than what it's broken down into. But obviously, you are putting in there pretty much the harshest compound that we use, particularly in an injectable format. So a lot would depend on experience and things like that, and how well you cope with the drugs. But I can see, I mean, obviously prolactin is going to be a concern. I can see low mood being an issue in that. But as regards to putting the two together, I don't actually have any objection to it, apart from my just objection to using Tren in general.
Okay. Yeah, it's a lot of, you make a good point that on their own, 119, you start stacking 19 Nors. Now you're basically running the equivalent of like almost a gram of 19 Nors, and one of them, and I don't even think that like milligram for milligram Tren is equal to Deca. I would say that Tren has more sides milligram per milligram in general. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree.
So I could see that. Definitely something to look out for. What about this one? Turkesterone, is it more anabolic than Anavar?
No.
Yeah.
I believe, I mean, I've not seen data on it, but I believe turkesterone is actually quite effective.
Well,
and I've seen a few bloods where people have managed to achieve levels, NMOL based here, but levels in the mid-30s through turkesterone. So it definitely has the potential to push you super pharmacological, albeit just a small amount.
Dante has it available, and if I'm not mistaken, he was the first one to bring it to market through True Nutrition. Okay, and I had spoken to him about it, and then I'd also listened to him talk about it before. And what he had said is the main reason that he wanted to get this, the main reason he was interested in it is because he doesn't want to use anabolics. Okay. And he said, no, it's not going to replace running a cycle. That's not what it is. But he said, if you were to use this long term, that the results you get are going to be better than if you didn't use it. And if running gear is not going to be an option in your life, then it could be something that could be beneficial to get an extra boost.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of bloods that have had over-the-counter test boosters applied to them. So everything from Tribulus, DAA, DHEA, Macaroon, Tonga Ali, Turkesterone. And on the most part, they have had a positive impact. Like you said, are they cyclitic levels? No, nowhere near. But would they maintain a decent, healthy level of testosterone without moving to TRT? Yes, quite often. So, natural boosters, they're not going to get you massive, but they can improve you within those natural parameters without doubt.
Yep, I'd go with that. All right, how about this one from Robert? He says, okay, just to add to my previous question, which apparently we didn't answer, he said, I mixed waxy maize with Tibetan salt and beta-alanine. I got no pump, but my energy level was through the roof. I've used carb powders before, but waxy maize is so old school, just thought to try it. So my question again is, what's the best pre-workout for pumps?
Haven't got a fucking clue.
Food.
Well, I mean, to be quite honest, it's something I know very little about is pre-workouts because I don't like them. I've never used them. So I honestly can't tell you, I'm afraid. It's something I've not really looked at. It's something I've had no cause to look at. I don't use pre-workouts with clients. If they want to use them, I'm fine for them to use them, but there's nothing that I sort of prescribe to do.
Yeah.
I mean, the best thing I've ever found for pumps is growth and slint, to be fair.
But what about, like, he's saying that, so he adds salt in, he adds this Tibetan salt, he's in beta-alanine and in carb powder. He's like, I'm not getting a pump. Like, what is so off with your maybe, because it really comes down to hydration, right? We're all talking about moving fluid.
The two factors I would be considering is hydration and insulin sensitivity. They're the two things that I find. So the hydration as in fluid and salt and electrolyte balance, and insulin sensitivity are the two things that I find have the biggest impact on people being able to or not being able to get a pump.
Yeah. Yeah. And if he's not like getting a pump already, something is really off, I would say try drinking more water and see what that does.
I'm probably going to come across as a bit of here, but you should be achieving a pump through training alone.
Yeah.
If you're anywhere near half decent health-wise. I've never needed a pump agent in my life. Don't get me wrong. I've taken stuff that have massively increased the pumps to the point where they were crippling, painful, and almost stopped workouts. But
yeah,
I've never had an issue of not being able to get a pump with no drugs at all. The only time, excuse me.
Oh, good God, good Lord.
Oh, that hurt. There's the only time I've ever had an issue with pumps per se was when I was post a huge bout of insulin use, and I was very insulin resistant, and then I did struggle to get pumps no matter what I did naturally. But the biggest impact you're going to have outside of all this is your training itself, and if your training's not on point, you should. But the other thing is, why? I get a pump feels nice. I get a swollen muscle feels nice, particularly a small group like triceps or biceps or delts or something like that.
Yeah.
But it's not particularly essential in growth.
That's true too.
if people took as much effort around trying to achieve a pump as they did at trying to improve their training, their progression would be so much better.
Yeah.
I've never understood this obsession with pumps that people have. I don't get it personally. I just find it.
It's a psychological thing. You know what I mean? You feel that pump, and I'll tell you what, man. I think that the pump itself can be it could be a lie almost, because you feel like it's satisfying. You get hey, I got a good pump today. That doesn't necessarily mean that you did what you needed to in the gym to grow, right?
Yeah. No, I mean, like I said to you, when I've messed around with stuff like growth and insulin pre-workout, the pumps have been to the point where I couldn't train, and I stopped using the drugs because it was actually restricting my ability to train properly.
Yeah. Somebody else just said that too. I stopped because the pumps hurt so bad it ruined my workouts. Here's a weird one from Alex. He says, I would love the channel to cover this question. Is having CCTV, closed circuit TV, in a posing room breaking the law, or is it legal but just goes against gym etiquette?
I would suspect that because it's a posing room, I'm far from knowledgeable on this, but I would suspect that because it is a posing room where there is no expected actual nudity,
yes,
cameras would be okay. I've known camera systems be in the communal areas in toilets before now.
Oh, really?
As long as they were cubicle-based toilets and the cameras didn't face into the cubicles. So I've seen restrooms with cameras over the sinks.
Wow.
But not actually they can't point them at the cubicles.
Yeah.
But that was a restroom where there was no urinals, so there was no chance of any nudity being spotted. I'm not sure, but I would have thought that the nature of a posing room should be that you are in a costume of sorts, therefore you aren't nude, and therefore there should be no issue around a camera.
Yeah.
But I get people being uncomfortable with it.
Yeah, I see it as maybe being no different than like an aerobics room. Yeah,
but I can understand why people would be uncomfortable about it. I think also because the posing room's a lot much more. What fucking sort of English is that? It's a much more intimate environment in the sense that usually it's you or you and maybe one other on your own.
Yeah.
So it's got a much more private feel about it than a room with 30 people in leotards bouncing up and down on trampolines. So I can see there being an issue there, but I don't think it would be criminal. But I tell you, what's his name? The lawyer who watches the show.
Oh, Rick Collins.
No, the other one.
Oh, Gambino Law. He would know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Gambino Law would know if he's with us. Yeah, comment for us, man. Let us know. Or any other lawyers, too. I'd be curious to hear what your thoughts were. It kind of takes me back, Dave, because I remember when there was a transition in fitness and in bodybuilding that if you were in a hardcore gym, you could peel down to your boxers or whatever, right on the gym floor. Yeah, and it was acceptable. You know what I mean? It was acceptable back then. We're in a different world today. I mean, people might peel their shirt off for a minute, hit a couple shots, get the Sam Sulik thing. I hear Sam likes to like check his pump, He's like, yeah, looks good kind of thing. But it's not a common thing now. Like it used to be that like you're done training legs, boom, you drop those pants like right on the gym floor. And I talked to people even in like 2016. I was like, would that be weird to you? And I remember some people being like, yeah, I don't want to see all that.
I have a confession to make.
Uh-oh. Are you streaking again?
No, so I've worn baggies my whole training career. Like the 80s sort of baggy pants stuff.
Yeah, like the crazy wear.
Yeah, I've worn those for a very, very long time. In fact, my mother used to make me loads of mad versions of it.
Nice. Homemade crazy wear.
I have got in trouble before now because I tended to go commando when I was wearing those items.
Oh my God, Dave.
And I have got in trouble for dropping my pants in the middle of the gym to check the pump in the legs and just using my hands to cover my
Oh no, that's another level there, Dave. That's another level right there.
So I confess to having done that, and I got in trouble for it.
Listen, I will give you. What do I have here? I've got $2 Canadian right here. Hey, I've got it right here. I will give this to Christmas Cabbage if you if you check your legs at the Arnold Expo. It's got to be on camera.
I haven't got any legs anymore.
Oh, okay.
I literally day by day I'm slowly turning into a bigger and bigger fat mess than ever.
Oh, come on. Are you keeping up on your cardio?
Am I bollocks? I've done nothing for weeks. I know. I just decided to leave it till after Arnold's and then get back on it. It's just excuses. I know it is, but
all right, guys.
It seemed one I might get away with, that one.
Well, you heard him. Guys. Dave's going to get with it after the Arnold, so be sure to comment and ask him how his cardio is going, and we'll keep up with Dave. How about this one from Still Dreamin'? He says, "Hey, Scott and Dave, I caught you live on Facebook the other day. By the way, guys, if you want to watch us live, you can go over to the Facebook group at Think Big Bodybuilding Media." He says, you told me to comment here with topic ideas. Oh, great. Good man. He says, how do body fat levels affect the efficacy of exogenous hormones, both gear and growth? And is more gear sometimes needed? Are there cases where higher body fat levels can be better or enhance their effectiveness?
No, the opposite.
So you're saying you need more gear if you're fat?
Yep. Well, I would never say you need more gear if you're fat, but gear is less effective when you're fat because fat actually has androgen receptors in it.
Yeah.
Two things happen when you're fat. You get an increased production of aromatase, so as a result, you've got more of an estrogen conversion. And fat actually has androgen receptors in it, actually has ARs. So though you're not going to get a positive impact from androgens engaging with the AR in fat, it is going to tie some of the compound up and therefore not have it available for the AR in muscle tissue. And as we have we don't have an infinite life on anabolics. Obviously, if that anabolic is tied up in non-productive tissue, then it isn't doing a job of signaling for muscle tissue. So, yes, being fatter. I mean, there's much more downstream things to consider as well, like fitness, recovery, ability to train hard and recover because of it. Higher issues with heart health because you're carrying more unnecessary weight. So there's a whole host of things that can affect your performance off the back of that. But basically, chemically, the fatter you are, the less effective your dose will be.
All right. I think all the fat guys out there are like thinking of excuses. They're like, this is the reason why I need to run, twice as much.
No, it's the reason why you should get leaner. And I know that's ironic coming from me at the moment, but it is the truth. You will always get a better uptake and response if you are leaner.
Okay. How about this one? Can Dave, I don't know who this guy is, all right, but he says, can Dave explain the Paul Pogba doping ban and DHEA? So I looked the guy up. He was banned from sports for 4 years because he tested positive for having taken DHEA. Come on, people.
So DHEA is a banned substance, and that's really the thing is with when you look at WADA, they've even attempted to ban caffeine, and I think even caffeine levels are actually monitored as well in certain things. And let's be real, we all know that the performance advantage caffeine's going to give us is not going to be huge. But when you're talking about athletes at the very top of their game, a small percentage is still a small percentage, and it still improves their performance.
Yeah.
Now, DHEA is a precursor hormone to do with the adrenal axis. Our adrenal glands make testosterone. They don't make huge amounts of it, but they do make it.
Yeah.
In fact, roughly your adrenal gland's probably going to be capable of making about 5, maybe 6 nmol.
Okay.
Maybe a little bit more if you pushed it really hard.
Yeah.
By supplementing with DHEA, you increase adrenal gland output of testosterone, so effectively raising your test levels. It's a mechanism that's exploited in females when they have low androgen syndrome, basically low test, and either they don't want to go onto testosterone or they aren't able to go on testosterone because it's just not prescribed or whatever the regulations be where they are. DHEA is a common secondary supplement, and 25 milligrams of DHEA a day can see female test levels go from less than 0.5 into sort of 1.5 to 2.5 nmol. It's not huge, but that's hugely impacting in a female.
Okay. Yeah.
Long term. So DHEA does have the potential to increase testosterone levels. For the average person, is that going to make any difference to their performance? Not massively. To somebody at the very top of their game, we may be talking single-digit percentiles here, but yes, it could have a small positive impact. But the bottom line is, WADA banned it, you use it, you're breaking the rules, and therefore you're using a banned substance. And a lot of the rulings that I've seen, not all, but a lot of the proposals through WADA for banning substance are quite literally a case of, well, this study showed that this compound gave a performance increase, so therefore we're banning it, with no actually application of what that performance increase would be in the real world. So a lot of their banning decisions are based around studies that show some form of very often lab-based improvement in potential performance from a compound with no real-world sort of reality check on how much that is going to affect somebody. But, I mean, you're talking at the top end, you're talking about athletes that are very meticulous about every aspect of what they do in order to improve their performance. You know, they've got all the I's dotted and all the T's crossed. So small changes can yield different results. And when you're only talking fractions of a second, dividing people in first and second, you know, it could be as much as that to make a difference. So
it's such a small amount. I get what you mean. Like if you take a finely tuned race car, giving it just a little bit of an edge might outpace another car. But just how small, like if I were going to do it, man, I want to go a little bit bigger than that, you know?
Yeah, I mean, our sort of attitude, I'm going to do it. I'm going to go on a course. You know what I mean?
Something. But, he says, so this is brand new news, by the way, because I'm seeing as of like 24 hours ago, there have been stories released about this. He says that, what is this? They have a few different statements here, but one of the things is he's saying that it was an accident now. He was saying that he was somehow, literally the word is tricked into taking a banned substance. And he's apologizing and maintaining his innocence as of just 24 hours ago.
Yeah, I mean, though there is a possibility he's taking a supplement not realizing, one, either it contained DHEA, or two, that it was even DHEA just as a single ingredient. Yeah, possibly. But unfortunately, in sport, the responsibility and onus is on the competitor. So whether you had a coach advise you to take it or someone else told you to take it and you were told it was fine to do so, that will not be seen as an excuse for the fact that you've used it, because ultimately you are responsible for what you put in your body.
Looking at this article, this just shows me how terribly inaccurate the news can be and how little they know about this world. They have a picture of him and the caption under it. I assume this is the same situation because they're talking about him taking DHEA. The caption reads, Pogba was banned in February after testing positive for testosterone. What?
Well, yeah, but you see, that's the thing. So the downstream effect would be an elevation in testosterone.
So he's getting that much of an increase in test.
Well, this is the weird thing, because I mean, I suspect what they've detected is DHEA.
Yeah.
Because when my understanding, if I'm right, and I'm sure somebody will correct me if I'm wrong, but when they drug test in sports, what they do is obviously they look for the metabolites, the compounds that are banned. They don't actually test your testosterone levels. So they'd look for metabolites.
They look at test to epi test too. Like they will check your test and they look at the ratio.
They do look at ratios, that's true. I can't see this throwing the ratio out to an extent where it would be questionable.
Right. Yeah.
So I think what this will be a case of is they've picked up metabolites of DHEA as a compound, and realised that, you know, these levels are way in excess of what's natural. This person must have been supplemented with this compound. And he's obviously admitted he was, because he said he's taken it mistakenly. He's not denied taking it.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to be the case. But obviously DHEA does result in testosterone production. So they're not quite right, but I think they've just looked at what DHEA does and then jumped on the testosterone word because it's more sensationalistic. You know, the general public knows what test is. They may not know what DHEA is.
Right. All right. Well, enough of that bollocks. And by the way, he was a French soccer player, or English football? Soccer? Do you guys ever call it soccer?
Occasionally, actually, I've heard it used, yeah, but mainly we call it football.
Hey, one day I want to ask you again. We talked about it a long time ago. If we ever get the time, we have all these questions. But if one day I'd love to ask you again about the hooligans and hooligan culture. It's a fascinating subject to me. How about this one about SEO? He says, sometimes I have a bad shot with my regular test, and it gets ugly swelling. That goes down within a few days. If one were to take a more long-lasting oil, such as synth oil, would that ugly swelling, if it were a bad shot, remain as long as the oil was in the muscle, or does the swelling go down and the oil stays in the muscle? Thanks in advance, long-time follower of the show, and appreciate the content. This is from Benjo.
So when you get a swelling off a bad shot, you've got inflammation. You've got actual swelling of the tissue. It's inflamed. It's swollen. It's holding water. You can't manipulate that swelling. It's the tissues, the fibers that are irritated and that have inflamed. That's it. That's it. You're not going to move that anywhere else by massage or doing anything else. When you take synthol, the oil sits in the muscle and gets between the fibers, enlarging the muscle. It sits, you can, if you do a bad shot with synthol. So with synthol, you're supposed to do lots of small shots, disperse it all around the muscle, and then you're supposed to massage that as well to make sure it penetrates evenly across the muscle, so you don't get a spot lump. You get this even swelling of the whole muscle. But synthol's an oil, and it's an oil that sits there for a long time. So to an extent, you can physically manipulate it with massage. So if you were to fuck up with a synthol shot and just dump a load of oil in one spot, yes, you're going to get this lump, you're going to get this bump. But you can manipulate that with physio to get that dispersed more evenly through the muscle. I would suspect it's fucking painful.
Yeah.
I have no direct experience. I used synthol once. I injected it in my calves when I was about 21. Couldn't walk for 5 days and never went near the shit again. I didn't even know what it was. I was told it was a site enhancing that caused localized growth.
Yeah.
So I stuck a couple of mil in each calf, could not even move my ankle for about 5 days.
Oh, that's ugly, man.
Oh,
that's rough.
And that was the only experience I've ever had. So, but yeah, I there's quite a few online injection protocols of how you pattern it and stuff. But the difference is, with a bad shot, you've got inflammation at the site, and that inflammation won't move.
Right.
With synthol, you've got a slow dispensing oil that you can actually physically manipulate that further into the muscle with a lot of massage.
Here's what I found. Couple things. So the one time I tried synth oil, I didn't use nearly enough to make it work. And it's like, I think part of the reason is that you're putting it in, then you're putting more in, and it's like a regular thing. It's not just like once a week and, you know, it a month later, everything looks better. Like, these guys are taking a lot. And the guys who look like real gross, like the synth oil freaks, I can't even begin to imagine. Like, we're talking hundreds and hundreds of milliliters per muscle. I just couldn't imagine what that protocol would look like, nor would I want to. I have helped reduce localized swelling if it's in an extremity, either a delt or a quad. And I found, here's what I've done, Dave. I've used, so you try everything, right? If you take ibuprofen, you try to get that swelling down. Some people have iced. I've always used a heating pad, and I feel like that heat helps to get better blood flow in there and carry it away. And then the trick I never hear anybody ever mention on podcasts, and it's worked every time for me, is to put some light compression on it. Now, you obviously can't do that as easily with a glute shot, but if a quad shot, you could just lightly wrap that with like an ace bandage, not tight. We're not trying to cut off the circulation, but just gentle pressure. Go to bed, and the next morning that swelling gets pushed. It's been pushed out.
Well, yeah. Now, some of that is because that swelling is coming from undispersed oil.
Yeah.
So there are two types of swelling with a shot. The first one is a pool of oil.
Yeah.
And heat is very, very good because the heat will heat the oil. The oil will then get more viscous. It will get thinner.
Yes.
And therefore it will move through the muscle easier. And the pressure that you're talking about, the compression, is literally, that's it. You're putting pressure on a blob of oil in your leg, which allows it to be pushed deeper into the muscle. But the other type of information you're going to get from a bad shot is where you damage the muscle tissue. Now, this can be bad needle, moving the needle, pushing in too fast, too hard, and you cause a localized site trauma.
Yeah.
That's actual individual muscle fibers that have swollen because they have been damaged. That's different. That won't disperse in the same way with heat. Heat and
the pressure will.
Heat and cold will lower inflammation, but you're not trying to disperse an oil. You've actually got inflamed tissue that you're trying to deal with. So there's two separate possibilities with a site swelling from a shot.
And God forbid an infection. You know, then we're talking a whole other can of worms.
And you can get sterile infections as well, where there is actually no foreign body, but your body reacts like there is.
Yeah.
Steroid cellulitis infections are, I wouldn't say common, but do happen.
Yeah.
With any swelling, just a little tidbit. If you find a swelling, I would, especially if it's not a lump, but it's a generalized redness patch, I would draw a line around it and see if it's spreading.
Yeah.
If it's growing, chances are it's probably a form of cellulitis, and you will probably need antibiotics to get that under control. If it's a lump, then it can be, like we've already said, trauma, undispersed oil, or it could be the forming of an abscess. Now, I've only ever had two. I've never had an actual abscess, but I have had two lumps that were basically the starts of infections. And in both cases, basically, big green in there several times, in a hot shower, plenty of heat, squeezed the living shit out of it, and I just aspirated it and cleared it up that way. So I was always thought, well, put it in there, we'll get it out. And to a degree, that can work, but it is very specific. You need to have the lump. For that
you got to be careful with that too, because if you do have an abscess, that your body's walled off everything to save it from that infection, and if you puncture that, you could go septic, right?
You can do, yeah. You've got to be sensible with it, and the other thing you'll find occasionally is that you can get lumps, and what they are is pooled blood.
Yes.
So if
hematoma.
You've gone in, you've clipped a vein. It collects in a pocket and it acts almost like an abscess. that blood can start to pus, and again that can be aspirated. But you'll know if you can feel when you put a needle into something like that. You can feel when it enters the pocket. You can physically feel it on the needle. In fact, when you do blood testing, what you're taught is you feel the needle going into the vein. You feel that pop as it enters the vein. You can do that, and then either using a syringe you can draw out or you can squeeze out. If you're getting blood and pus, it's an internal bleed that's going a bit funky. That can be aspirated. But if you start to feel a fever or any symptoms of system-wide infection, then it's definitely doctors and antibiotics straight away.
And none of this is medical advice. Seek medical attention. Obviously, don't listen to guys on the internet. And I won't say that I haven't done all the same stuff you're talking about, Dave.
Don't listen to me.
Okay, let's see. Yeah, and I won't, like I said, I won't say that I haven't. I'm no stranger to exactly what you're talking about, too. I think if you've been in the game long enough, yes, these things happen. All right, let's see if we have anything here on the live stream to wrap us up, and then we'll get some words of wisdom from Dave. Let's see. Thoughts on SubQ test versus IM?
SubQ limits volume.
Yes.
That would be my main concern around SubQ. SubQ for TRT, yeah, no issues with that whatsoever. I think it's perfectly fine. You will slow the absorption rate, so you will get much less of a peak, much more stable levels. And I tend to find because of that, you get a bigger overlap, and as a result, you can actually run a slightly lower dose. So when I used to do TRT SubQ, I was down as low as 50 milligrams twice a week. But when I did TRT IM, I was 60, 65 milligrams twice a week. So it's not a huge difference, but there was definitely a distinct difference.
Okay.
I wouldn't really look at SubQ for cyclitic doses. I mean, obviously it depends where you are with cycles as well, but I would be a little bit more reluctant to do SubQ for higher volumes. I tend to want to be sort of third of a mil, max, maybe half a mil at a real push for SubQ.
Yeah.
I've
done really more. It gets irritating. I've done like a milliliter, and it wasn't a good move.
No, I think it's very volume limited, whereas intramuscular, obviously volume availability increases in how much you can get in there. But you will get a quicker uptake as well through an IM.
I've done smaller amounts of L-carnitine as well. Amino Asylum has like a 600 milligram per milliliter. That's pretty painless too. I wouldn't shop there, and if you don't, then don't use code THINK. But I'd use like maybe 200, 300 milligrams, so like between a third to a half milliliter SubQ, and I found that to work well for me. But then I've had clients and friends that had tried the same thing, and they said a lot of guys had said, no, there's too much irritation from it.
Yeah, you can be. You can definitely get a lot of irritation for SubQ.
Yeah. Let's see what else we have here. I thought we had one. Where was this? Something about insulina. Fast-acting insulin pre and post-workout. Would it help to implement with other meals or on off days? I can't get longer-acting insulin where I'm from.
So I personally, and this is me personally, if I wanted the big pumps that we were talking about earlier in the show, then the pre-post would be my go-to. If I wanted more effective use of the insulin to further growth, I would focus more around insulin with meals, and I would do fast-acting anyway. I'm not a fan of slow, but I would look at like a start point of probably 2 to 3 IU per meal, but I'd drop the pre and post workout, or at least drop the pre.
Yeah.
Because even with fast-acting, you've got an accumulation over a day. Though it peaks quickly, it does hang around for quite a few hours. So you will start to get a little bit of a build-up and an overlap. So it is worth being conscious that depending on where your doses is, your last meal of the day, you may not put any insulin with it at all because you're already going to have elevated circulating levels.
Yeah. Yeah. And days off. I mean, I think part of the beauty of insulin nowadays is our understanding that we can get it in there surgically, use it at specific times. And I would personally want to try to maintain my insulin sensitivity or a client's insulin sensitivity as best we can. And so off training days or non-training days would be my opportunity to not use it, to kind of, make sure that we keep you as insulin sensitive as possible. The more you use, the lower your insulin sensitivity is going to end up being.
Yeah, I mean, if you keep doses low, its impact's not too great, and it actually protects insulin sensitivity to an extent. But when you start going big, this is why I'm also not a fan of pre-post, because pre-post encourages higher doses. And obviously, when you start going way above what would naturally be produced, then there's no way you can't have a negative impact on insulin sensitivity, because that receptor is getting saturated with insulin way above what it would normally encounter.
Yeah.
Where if you're effectively an IU above, that negative impact is significantly reduced and much better tolerated long term.
And I wonder, when he says I can't get longer acting insulin where I'm from, what is he talking about? Does long acting mean like Lantus or something like that? What's he using? Is he using like a Novolin R? Because that's Novolin regular. That's not rapid. That could be still, I'd consider that a middle of the road insulin. You know what I'm saying? You take that pre, it's going to cover you through your training. It's going to cover you through your post, and it'll still be active for a little while beyond that, possibly into the following meal.
Well, I mean, even Humalog R, I think Humalog R peaks at 90.
Humalog?
90 minutes. Yeah, does it compete at 90?
It's pretty
90
short.
Minutes?
Yeah, it's pretty short.
But then it's still detectable 10 hours later.
Humalog is.
I'm sure it is, yeah.
Okay.
I'm sure it is. I'm not, don't quote me on that. I'm going back to my Milos days here and trying to remember.
Okay.
Because Milos
Humalin R.
Milos used to send you a breakdown of the half-lives and decay rates of all the different insulins. So depending on which one you picked, you knew what you were looking at timing-wise. And I can't remember. I might be wrong, so don't quote me.
I think Humalin R in me, I believe maybe. I'm not sure about Humalog. I have always thought it to be out before that, like completely out before that period of time. Taking our insulin... act like, somebody says taking regular insulin like Humalin R, taking it IM will make it act faster, like fast acting, which is true.
Yes, it will. Yeah.
You mentioned Milos. Have you ever met Samson before? He's from over there in your country.
I haven't. No.
No.
Right. So Humalog doesn't fully decay until 10 hours.
It's 10 hours. Okay.
But its peak is at 1 hour to 2.
Okay, so you're right at 90 minutes.
There's a very rapid drop-off from 4 to 6 hours.
Okay. So you definitely then are going to get some overlap pre and post, right?
Mm-hmm. But it doesn't actually fully go. So you've got this really steep peak curve over, which lasts about an hour and a half, and then quite a rapid drop, and then you've got a little bit of a tail off at the end for the last couple of hours. Okay.
So Samson was working with Milos, and he decided not to.
I don't know what's gone on there. I only caught part of the story. I just saw Milos Milos should say, put up a post saying, thank you for the time working together, enjoyed it, wish you all the best. Yeah, I don't know what else has gone on.
He's working with his wife now for the Arnold.
Yeah, I've heard a few stories, but I don't know if any of them have any weight to it. They weren't particularly positive around his wife, but I don't know if that's just nastiness and internet bullshit.
Which very well could be. Then let's not even say that. You know what I'm saying? Because then you say that, and then somebody else listens to you, and that's how rumors begin. You know what I mean?
Yes, no,
you're like, Dave said that there's some nastiness. You know what I mean?
I have no actual idea of what's gone on. I believe he went to hospital, but wasn't that just for some checks?
Yeah, he wasn't feeling good after the real Arnold, I'm going to call it. So what are you going to do at the Arnold UK? You're going to hang out with all your friends and all your podcast fans. Dave, you're a celebrity. You're going to have people, I'm sure, lining up.
So if I'm hanging out with all my friends, you mean I'm sitting there on my own with a stuffed cabbage toy?
Yeah, Christmas Cabbage is on his way. He's literally, the minute we're done with this podcast, I am setting him out. Uber is coming to pick him up. He is flying down to meet Dusty, and then Dusty got him, like I said, business class seat through Mutant. Mutant hooked him up, so.
Mutant hook him up, but they won't hook me up. Yeah, fine.
Yeah, they won't send me over. They won't. They won't fly me over. They were going to bring me over, Dave, but then Christmas Cabbage needed a ride home, so they're going to give the ticket to him. All right.
Mutant can go forth and multiply themselves, is what they can do. We go down Thursday morning. We set up. So Thursday's steady. And then we have the Friday. The expo starts. It's 9 till 6, but it's marketed as a trade day, but I've never really found it to be such.
Okay.
And then Saturday is going to be the busiest, and then Sunday morning will be quite busy, and then Sunday afternoon it will die off. Sunday it finishes at 5, Saturday it finishes at 6.
Okay. That's longer hours than ours.
Yeah, we'll be doing as usual crap.
Yeah.
No doubt Zach will be giving me loads of shit. But
good. You need that.
We've got, I believe, Cuba and Mega with us on the Friday. Nathan Thebe are with us all weekend. Mass Monster Charlie's coming down for Saturday.
Nice.
Jamie's going to flip between us and Mutant. Obviously, he's primary going to be at Mutant because that's his main sponsor.
Sure.
But he's going to come across and give us an hour.
Okay.
Zach's with us all weekend. Broderick's going to be floating about. He's got quite a few people with him as well. Hollywood Muscle.
Hollywood Muscle. Don't know the Hollywood Muscle.
No, I can't pronounce the guy's last name.
But I know Tanya. She's a listener of our show. I met her this past weekend. She was there with Broderick, and she stopped by the Mutant booth and said hi. We talked for a little bit, got pictures and stuff. She watches the show live a lot of times.
Poor girl.
I know. She's got nothing better to do. Yeah, no life. No life. So Dave, I'm excited for you. Are you going to actually watch the show? Probably not. I'm going to guess no. You got too much work. You're going to be tired.
I'm old. Okay. No, I won't be watching the show. We're going out for a meal with everybody Saturday night. So,
where are you going?
Fazenda, all you can eat meat.
Okay, is that the place that I went to with you? Dave treated me to a really nice meal, guys, when we were out there. Actually, Dave wouldn't let me pay for stuff when I visited. I'd pull out my wallet and he'd be like, "No."
Was it in Leeds, next to the canal?
No, I guess this would have been in Liverpool. And it was one of the places though where they bring the meat over. And
same place.
Oh, okay, that was good food, man.
Yeah, same place. We're going to the Birmingham version of that. So we're taking everybody out for that Saturday night, and that's it really. I mean, it'll be what it'll be. I've no idea how it's going to be. It looks okay from what I'm seeing from a point of view of who's there and interest. It looks like it should be a decent show.
Yeah, I bet it will, man. I hope you guys have a lot of fun. Before we go, do you have any words of wisdom for us? Uncle Dave's advice of the day.
I don't know if I've done this before, so if
it's keep swimming, then yes, you have.
Yes, it's keep swimming. Don't be afraid to say no. Don't be afraid to be what many would term as selfish. There's an old saying, you can't give from an empty cup. And effectively what it means is you have to make sure you're right before you start giving yourself away to others. And we are conditioned through society that you're a bad person if you don't support and help people. But if that helping someone else is detrimental to your own well-being or your own financial circumstances, then you shouldn't be doing it. The other thing is that when you give or help, it should be done free. And what I mean by that is that a lot of people will do somebody a favor but then bank it that they're owed a favour. And if that favour isn't returned, they get resentful of the person that they did the favour to.
Oh,
now,
yeah.
When that person asked me for a favour, I don't think they came to you and said, look, can you do this for me and then I will repay this by doing you a favour further down the line if you need one. No,
right.
They came and said, can I have a favour? You give it because you're willing to give, and that's the key word, give. It's not, I give it you on the condition that you do something for me later on down the line, or that you do this, or that you do that. It's a gift, or it's nothing at all.
Yeah.
If you expect something in return, then you make that very clear. It's like when somebody asks me to lend them money, which is rare because I'm a tight shit and don't lend anybody money. But the point is, if I lend someone money, I do it under the understanding that I may never see that money again.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm going to pursue the return of that money because it was only a loan. But I go into it with this understanding that I could very well lose that money. And I will go into it also as well, weighing up that, right, so if I lend this person who's, say, supposedly a friend, £200 and they don't pay me back, it's cost me £200. But then it's like, well, yes, but what I've actually done is pay £200 to find out what this person is like.
Yeah.
And I now know that they aren't worth it. And so, to an extent, I can argue it's money well spent because I now know that that person is not somebody I want around me or in my life.
You learned a lesson. You learned a 200-pound lesson.
And I've paid to learn that, and I try not to anyway. I can't say I don't always, but I try not to fall out with people in situations like that. It's more just a case of, right, okay, I understand where I stand. I understand where I am in your relationship, in your life. And as a result of that, I'm going to choose to not have you in mine anymore. There are people obviously get into trouble, mates, you lend money and they as long as someone's straight, it's fine. You know what I mean? Oh, no, I can't afford it at the moment because of X, Y, Z, fine. But yeah, it's stuff like that. But it's not just about the money. It's also about the giving of your time or the giving of your resources or the giving of your intellect. Never give it unless you are truly willing to give it. Yeah. If you give it with conditions attached, if you don't make them clear to the person, then what do you expect? You know what I mean? Nobody expects to pay for advice if it's not made clear to them that they'll have to pay that advice back in some form.
Yeah, that's true.
So, but at the same time, don't be embarrassed by going, no, I can't do that, or I'm not capable of doing that, or I just don't have it in me to be able to afford to give you that amount of my energy.
Yeah.
Because you've got to look after yourself, because no one fucker's going to do that for you.
That said, we should assume let's take next week off. As far as
it would help.
So just to let the guys know ahead of time, Dave doesn't hate you. He's just got a lot going on right now. Between the Arnold, you're gonna have to do all your blood reports. Blood reports.
Blood reports, yes.
And then you've got to go out and do the other trade show. So we'll plan to reconvene in a couple weeks. I do think that is good advice, and it's hard to say no. Period. Really, it is, especially when you want to be able to make people happy. That's what it comes down to in my life,
But it's not worth making yourself miserable.
What are they? When you get on the plane, they say you have to put on your own mask, your own oxygen mask, before you can put on somebody else's, right?
Because you have to be safe before you can help somebody else. It's the same basic principle, yes.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, thank you for tuning in to another episode of the podcast with Dave Crosland. I'm Scott McNally. Go to evalbloodanalysis.com. Get your lab work done by Dave, or go to the Arnold UK. Get your lab work done by Dave there. Let's try to hook up you and Ron and Dusty. Take 1 minute, please. Go over into the mutant booth and tell Jamie to introduce you. You've met Dusty now.
Okay, hang on a minute.
Yeah.
Why can't they come to me? Why do I have to give my time to them?
Because you're a giving man. That's why.
No, I'm not. I'm a miserable
Because it's easier to get one person to go meet 3 than it is to have 3 people come over to meet 1. That's why. And then tell them to come by and tell them you'll give them a pro discount on getting lab work done. You could give them $10 off or something. Give them $10
discount.
Off. Give them $10 off. They're my friends, Dave. Yeah, give them
right. So there's 2 problems I have with that statement. First one is discount. What the effing hell is a discount? And secondly, you have no friends.
I got Christmas cabbage, but he's leaving. Actually, oh shit, the Uber's here. Christmas cabbage, run! All right, he's gone. The Uber had to pick him up.
Yeah, I mean, it just depends what we're like. If I get some time, I'll get across.
So go run over on a Sunday or something like that. I want to see a picture of you guys all together.
It depends how far away it is. I may need to get transport.
Transport? Yeah, use discount code CABBAGE for 10% off. It's the friends and family discount at evalbloodanalysis.com. Dave will come and do your labs. You'll get a free pizza. You'll do them at your house. And you can use this code to now also get 10% off. In fact, Dave will pay you to do your... No, just kidding, guys. Also, check out truenutrition.com. Use our code THINK over there for additional savings. You guys need protein powders and all that stuff anyway. And if you're in the UK, then go to STROM Sports Nutrition. So Strom's going to be there too, I assume.
No, I don't believe so. I don't think Rick's
Strom.
No, I don't think so.
I got to see Rick today or this last week. He was at the Arnold US.
Yeah, he was. He competed in some man-hugging, butt-sniffing thing.
I saw that, man. I saw pictures of him in like a little bathrobe, and holding...
rolling around on the floor sniffing other men's bollocks or something. I'm not quite sure what that's all about.
Whatever it was, he did real good at it,
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, he did real good at it.
I believe he has a very good sniff.
All right, guys, we appreciate tuning in. Thank you to everybody from Patreon, and we will see you in a couple weeks. Of course, we'll keep the content going. And say hi to everybody for me out there, Dave, at the Arnold.
No.
Thanks a lot.